Schools go back on Monday as the country moves to alert level 1. Minister of Cooperative Governance Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma has cautioned for greater vigilance as the country moves to level 1. She expanded on the regulations which will govern level 1, saying that the healthcare system is capable of dealing with rising cases. I'm joined now by Mugwena Maluleke, who is Sadtu's General Secretary, to expand a little bit more of this from the perspective of the basic education sector. Very good evening to Mr. Maluleke, and thank you very much for speaking to us. News came out of the Eastern Cape of 98 pupils who were found to be COVID-19 positive. So this really speaks to the preparedness of teachers and schools for level 1. What is your response to this?
Good evening, and thank you for having us, and thank you to the viewers at home, and thanks for the question. Basically, it is that we're doing our best as education and as the teachers. We've been trying to build resilience, we've been trying to build confidence in our learners, and that is an ongoing process because the virus in itself, as we understand it, has not been relaxing. They may be relaxing the levels, however, the virus is still alive. So basically, I can say that the children have shown enthusiasm thanks to the teachers who have been putting a lot of efforts in making sure that they are able to deal with the overload that has been given to them because of the lack of substitute teachers. Now, with level 1, we believe that the government would be able to repatriate the amount of money, almost 2.1 billion that they gave it to the relief fund so that it can assist us in our schools. That is what we believe should be able to happen as we are approaching level 1, with the possibility of reducing the social distance to 1 meter. That therefore means we need to even strengthen our campaigns around issues of health and safety. Do it all, like the WHO has said, do it all, because the virus is not relaxing.
And I'm glad you mentioned the issue around spatial challenges. For many schools, they don't even have the school rooms to teach such wide numbers that they have in their schools. So how are you going to manage this? I know part of that has been achieved by cutting classes into half or even a quarter of them and changing the timetable thereof. But this means that it's actually 100% of occupation. So how are you going to deal with these spatial challenges?
Well, we'll not be having 100% occupation. Clearly, it is that we are going to have a revised percentages, but it will never be 100% because if you talk about 1 meter, it's not different from 1.1 meter, basically. So nothing has changed to that effect, is that there can be a small increase of numbers, but it can't be 100%. It will not happen. It will not be able to teach our learners. So we will still maintain the 50% occupation. We'll still maintain the rotation in terms of the timetable. Will still maintain the revised curriculum in terms of how it has been shortened and improved.
And I'm glad you clarified that, because that is the interpretation of some people, that as the announcement was made by the president of pretty much going back to normal, the interpretation has been that this is what will be expected of teachers and schools. But tell us about what challenges you see with regards to teachers with comorbidities. Are they going to be allowed to go back? How will that be worked out?
We've just seen the media release by the Department of Basic Education, basically outlining the process that need to be followed. One is that because the collective agreement has come to an end, and therefore those who have been granted concession would be reporting. However, that has been left to the head of departments in each and every province because there are substitute teachers in certain instances, and those substitute teachers would still be retained by the government because they've got contractual agreement with them, and therefore they will then guide the teachers in terms of how they are going to go back. But also the guideline is very clear that those who are still having some risk of returning, they will apply for normal leave in terms of the personal administrative measures, so that those particular teachers will be granted leave, and therefore the school will then qualify for a substitute teacher, unlike in the past where the school had to suffer not being able to get a substitute teacher because the teacher was deemed to be be working at home. Now the teacher will be on leave, and therefore the school will automatically qualify for a substitute teacher. And thanks to those teachers who have been there holding the fort with all the overload in our schools as part of supporting and standing in solidarity with their colleagues who were working at home.
In terms of grade 10s and 11s who won't be writing exams, how's this going to impact them for the next grade in terms of curriculum changes?
Well, yeah, it's a concern that I think parents and everybody will be concerned around it. However, what has happened is that the cognitive level and the proficiency level has not been tampered with. What has been tampered with when you do away with those particular examination is the issue of the quantity of work that should have been done and could not be done because of the pandemic. So what then would happen is that we're going back now to the basics in terms of really trusting the professional judgment of our teachers and our management to ensure that those particular cognitive levels are achieved, and therefore the quality part of it has to be taken into account. It put a lot, of course, of responsibility on the teachers now that they will be exercising professional autonomy and professional judgment, which is what is important to us, because it is about assessing for learning rather than assessment in terms of the league tables and the high-stake examination. So it will, to a certain extent, be improved in the year to come, where the skills and concepts have not been covered through this particular assessment. So therefore, because you give it to the teachers and the school, then they will be able to know that when you are in grade 12, where do we start? When you are in grade 11, where do we start? So the quality of grade 11 will not be compromised, because these grade 11 results are being used for learners to apply to higher education institutions.
Thank you so much for speaking to us, Mugwena Maluleke, Sadtu's General Secretary. Day zero is within